Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. I have a really interesting guest this week. For your listening pleasure, I have Marcus Bird here from the Wellness Leadership Academy. Marcus has some pretty magical tools under his belt, and I'm excited to share him with you today. Welcome, Marcus.
Oh, thank you so much, Linda, and great to be here.
I heard you online talking about an ancient Egyptian system of chakras. It's quite different from the 7 that most of us know, and some of us might add the thymus, which would be 8.
So the really interesting thing about this system, and obviously the information I received, is that way back in ancient Egypt, there was a gentleman, Akhenaten, who really changed everything for all of us, and it still affects us today. And his focus was to take all of the gods that the ancient Egyptians used to worship and shrink them down to one god, the god of the sun, Ra. And he got rid of all of the other all of the other gods, and just said, right, we're focusing on this. The other thing he did was he took a lot of the knowledge out of the hands of the common folk, took the knowledge, a whole lot of wisdom out of the hands of everyday person and gave it to religious leaders and those in power. And he realized that this was a way to start to control people. So what ends up happening is that a whole lot of secrets start to get hidden, and they start to get hidden in all sorts of different ways. They get hidden in superstition, where the number 13 is, a bad number or a superstitious number. They get hidden in a whole lot of ways, and this is what happened to the chakra system. And one of the reasons that the 13 chakra system is absolutely clear and definite is that you can imagine that our journey through life is a little bit like the keyboard of a piano. We have various octaves that we move through, and each octave is us, I suppose, raising in vibration to another level of awareness and another level of light, I suppose. And as we go through, we move through these octaves. Now, the fun part about an octave, which you may or may not be aware of, is that each octave contains 12 keys, and the 13th being the start of the next octave. And so we have these black and white keys. We have 5 black keys and 7 white keys. And the fun part about this is that as part of sort of taking the power away, what ended up happening is they made the black keys, theoretically, they made the black keys bad. Right? So we removed the black keys, we're left with 7. And so the chakra system follows this sort of flow in that they go, okay, let's do 7 white keys, let's do 7 chakras, let's keep 5 chakras hidden away, because then if we're not working with the whole chakra system, or at least the sort of 13 core chakras, then people aren't going to be able to step into their full potential. They're not going to be able to actualize their resonance, their true resonant frequency. Therefore, they're not going to be able to, manifest abundance and have, reach their full potential. Hence, we keep them in control.
How did you ever discover these chakras?
There was a couple of things that happened. And without going into my story too much, but I was a corporate Jedi, and climbing the corporate ladder, doing all the right things based on my parents' expectations. And one day I sat in my office, very happy with myself and pleased with how I was going. Senior manager, I had a European sports car, the right wife, the right house in the right suburb, with the right friends. And I remember leaning back and I put my hand on my heart and I said, there has to be more than this. And 2 weeks later, I gave myself chronic fatigue syndrome and I had to leave work. And I left work for over 2 years. And on that journey, I realized that the medical fraternity sort of gave up on me and that I actually had to heal myself. And so it was through this experience of really deeply connecting with myself and the planet and the sort of universe that I started to receive, pretty profound sort of messages in my meditations. And this is sort of what started this process. Is they started to give me a whole lot of data and information, and initially it was quite sort of masculine, and it was mathematical and lots of quantum physics and science and a whole lot of stuff I had no idea about. And then a lot of the Egyptian information sort of started coming through, and they started to share sort of the awakening of what had happened way back then, and how there's a whole system that they used to use, because there are sort of hieroglyphs and sort of proof around surgery. Egyptians used to do surgery. They had doctors who did surgery, but at a surgery they had two doctors. They had the physical doctor that cut and did that stuff, but they also had an energetic doctor there who opened the energy field and healed the energy field. And well, they were working with some quite amazing sort of technology until Akhenaten came along and sort of started to shut it down. And so I suppose I was gifted with a whole lot of the information. I then went out and researched more of the information, and looked at some of Drumvello Melchizedek's work, and that sort of reaffirmed what I was getting, the information I was getting. And then so one of the rules I made with these channeled beings was that if you give me anything, I want you to give me what's on the planet already that I can prove exists, and then give me the next piece of the puzzle. Like, tell me the rest of it, because I'm a pretty skeptical sort of person.
I have to say, I think that's hilarious that you made a deal with the intelligence coming. I think that's fantastic. Good thinking.
Yeah. Well, I had to, otherwise I was just getting stuff because initially there was so much stuff that came through, and I'm like, well, this means nothing. I don't know what this is. It sounds good, but how real is it? Am I making stuff up? Am I, is this, am I going insane? Please show me things that are here so that I can verify that there's at least something backing this up. So, and then the whole sort of 13 chakra system came. So not just 13 chakras at the front or the back of the body, but all 4 angles of the chakra system, which I call north, south, east, and west. And so when you're looking down from the top of the head down on the chakra system, there's a front chakra and a back chakra and a left chakra and a right chakra. And I think the sort of most profound part of this was, the fun part about it was that if you look at sort of 13 chakras and you look at 4 angles of the chakras, you end up with 52 chakras. There's 52 weeks of the year. Every week you're rotating one chakra, so there's one chakra focus every week, and the chakra focus is based on when you're born. Right? When you're born, a certain chakra is activated first, which actually aligns with the 13 star signs, not 12, and the 13 moon cycles. And so all of these sort of align together. Now, when the Romans came along and built the Gregorian calendar, they thought, well, let's take the power away from the women, right? Because the women are way too powerful, because they're so aligned with the universe and with nature that this is way too scary. So one of the ways to throw them off is to go, okay, let's take beautiful 13 months at 28 days with 1 day left over, and muck with it and do this crazy 28 days sometimes, and then 31, and then 30, and then which makes no logical sense whatsoever. So when you actually sort of come down to 13 star signs, 13 moons, 13 chakras, 1 chakra activated every week, and it rotates, it rotates through, and we have this sort of spiral that goes through. And so one of the things that I do, or I have done in the past, is I realign people with their native star sign, which then realigns them with their chakras, which then realigns their whole sort of being. And they have this real coming home moment of actually starting to feel like themselves.
Well, it's fascinating. If someone wanted to find out what chakra was active when they were born, like you don't have this as public knowledge.
No, not at this point. Not at this point. But potentially that's something I'll do. I'm just actually rebuilding dimensional bioenergetics website, and I'm going to have a whole lot of this information on that site once we're up and about, because it needs to be known. And I think the first step of it is awareness. wow, I'm this and not this. Now, not everyone changes star signs. I did to a degree. I'm an Aries theoretically, but actually I'm a Pisces, which is very different, right? So what ends up happening is unconsciously you try and live into your star sign, right? So for years I've been living into Aries, when actually I should be falling into Pisces, right? And I'm sort of on the cusp, so I can still play the Aries game, but I actually am a lot calmer than I actually appear.
It's all good and intuitive too, right? The
Yeah,
Pisces are quite intuitive.
yeah, absolutely. So that's what I focus living into now, and then I utilize Aries when I need to. But really, it's that Pisces energy that is really me.
Now, what about the actual 13 chakras that you use
Yeah,
for manifestation?
yeah, absolutely. So, so the 13 chakras, some are similar to the 7, obviously, because the white keys and the black keys, we're not changing keys, we're just adding black keys really into it. And so once you get these spinning correctly, then you start to realign with your sort of resonant field. Yeah, and it's the resonant field that then attracts abundance into your world. And actually, it's not about attracting abundance. We're already abundant. So the interesting part about abundance, and I used to hear a lot of people come to me and say, I want more abundance. I want more abundance of money, and I want more abundance of clients and whatever it is. And what I realized and was taught is that we are always receiving abundance. It's the quality of abundance, not the quantity of abundance, that's critical, right? Because we're either experiencing abundance of lack, or we're experiencing abundance of, more. And the universe is designed to give you abundance, whatever that is, right? So I used to tell people, stop focusing on more and focus on the quality you're looking for, because you're already receiving abundance. And the minute you say, I want more of something, you're acknowledging that you have lack. So therefore, of course, you get more of that.
I teach that very same thing, that you can have an abundance of joy, happiness, peace, love, or pain, suffering, trauma, negativity.
And you're getting it all the time. You're already getting abundance. That's what this world is designed for. The universe is designed to provide abundance. You just have to look at the stars at night, the animals on the planet, the plants, just how incredibly abundant we are. And so it's got nothing to do with the quantity of, it's actually all got to do with the quality of. And so when you align your resonant field, you get better quality that's more aligned with who you are.
Well, you have a little bit more choice, maybe. Or
Yeah.
should I say, you use your choice consciously to
Yes.
receive what you're actually looking for. So let's get back to these 13 magical chakras.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the 13 chakras are located, some in similar areas than others. So the similar is obviously base chakra. We're all familiar with that, same base chakra. We then have a pubic chakra, which is just sort of above the base, just on the pubic bone. We have a dantian chakra, which is 2 finger widths, 3 finger widths below the belly button. Solar plexus, which we're obviously well aware of. We then have 2 heart chakras, which is different. We have a heart chakra for us and a heart chakra for the world. And so one is focused on love for us, and the other is focused on love for everybody else on the planet and the universe. We then have a throat chakra, same. We then have a logic chakra, which is all about logic, and which sits here. And often when people are thinking, they often do this, which is stimulating that chakra. We have a sort of a limbic or emotional chakra, which sits here. And often you'll see when people are a little bit more emotional, or they're trying to access emotions, often they'll touch their nose, the tip of their nose. And so it's quite interesting to watch. We have a pituitary chakra, which sits here, hypothalamus, pineal, and then the Godhead, which is the 13th chakra, which is the start of the next octave.
So the hypothalamus is totally separate from the pineal.
Yeah, it actually goes on an angle. So it's just sort of at the, between your just below where the pineal would be, and it goes on an angle because it comes out the back of the cerebellum. So it's hypothalamus cerebellum, it goes through. So it's the only one that's sort of on an angle. The rest goes straight through.
I think it's really interesting that there is that chin one, considering
Yeah.
that all the pharaohs would have this,
Exactly.
I don't even know what it's called, but on their all of their
Beady
masks.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, and it's a way to stimulate, you know. So if you have hair there, you can sort of tug at it, pull at it, and that'll stimulate it. Again, it's about the thought process and about, okay, let me try and access some knowledge. So yeah.
Wow, fascinating. And the one at the end of the nose, I don't know if you, I'm sure you probably do realize it, but it's a straight path into the third eye.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. So it's fascinating, the concentration of chakras around the sort of head area. Yeah, kind of interesting how stimulating those can have a really big effect on consciousness.
Mhm. Exactly. And you do have a manifestation process that uses some chakras or some points, maybe they're not chakras, in
No.
the hip, the knees, ankles.
Yeah. So we have a process around called the pyramid meditation. And so one of the key pieces of information that was given to me was the pyramid centers of the body. And these pyramid centers are actually two pyramids end on end, right? So they're octahedrons, two pyramids end on end, and they spin. They spin like this. And there's 6 core centers, or 12 of them, in the body, between the ankles, between the knees, in the dantian, in the heart, throat, and in the head. And the interesting part about these pyramid centers is their spin provides alignment and gives us the ability to be balanced and centered and really with ourselves. But they're also incredible abundance generators. So as we spin up these pyramid centers, what ends up happening is we create a sort of this tornado effect around us. We're sitting in the middle of the tornado in peace and calm, and we create this tornado of resonant field around us that then attracts things into our center and drops down through the center and anchors into the earth. When we do that, we're way more likely to attract more abundance or attract a quality of abundance we want. These pyramid centers have really interesting qualities to them. The faster we spin them, the more light we become, the more we shine our light, the more all sorts of incredible things happen with these pyramid centers. Now, the fun part about it is that these pyramid centers have 2 core things that they rely on. They rely on the chakras to give them energy. Right, so the chakras innovate with these pyramid centers and give the pyramids energy just to spin. And the second is what we call the pathways, which give the pyramids their shape. Now, the pathways is the Egyptian Meridian System. It's called the Aboukra, and it's the ancient Egyptian Meridian System. And the real fun part about this, when I was given this information, is that this ancient Egyptian system. So when they gave me the word Aboukra, right? So as we were unpacking this sort of this meridian system, I'm like, well, what is this called? And they said Aboukra, and I'm like, Aboukra? What's the weirdest, craziest word I've ever heard, right? And and so I searched online for it because, again, you know, make sure you give me something I can. Right? And the only thing I found was Aboukra, a purported ancient Egyptian healing system that works with the energy system of the body. That was all that was online, nothing else. So this ancient Egyptian healing system of Aboukra works with the nano subtle energetic template of the body. So all of this stuff that I'm talking about is very, very subtle energetic in nature. And so these healing pathways spin around the body in various spots. And they actually spiral around the arms, the torso, the legs, and the head. And it's really interesting. There are some, after doing more and more research, you know, they were telling me bits and pieces. One of the things that I found, and they also told me, was that the ancient Egyptians used to travel. That they had the ability to travel around the world, right? There are hieroglyphs in the Blue Mountains, in ancient Aboriginal caves in the Blue Mountains here in Australia. And they went lots of places. And what we believe happened is they took this healing system and they went to China, and then they went to India. And so the Chinese looked at this and went, hang on a minute, we're going to create our own system, right? And what they did was, where these pathways spiral around the body and actually cross over each other, the Chinese drew a line straight down, or thereabout. I know some of them are squiggly. They drew a line through these sort of intersecting points and called it the Chinese Meridian System. The Egyptians went to India, and the Indians called it the Nadi system. It all came from the Egyptian system. It's just that the Chinese are way better at marketing than the ancient Egyptians were, and that's why we know the Chinese system, not the Egyptian system. Well, that's what I call it anyway, or say happened.
Fascinating. I've done your pyramid meditation, and I think
Great.
one of the things that I really appreciated the amount of energy in it because of all these vortexes spinning around you. But what I really loved about it was that you have these centers or these pyramids kind of beneath the root chakra
Yeah,
to ground the manifestation here into
yeah,
this plane, right? Everything
yeah,
has to come through
yeah,
the root to
yeah.
actually be made manifest. So
That's exactly right.
yeah, I think it's fascinating, and I'm so happy that you're sharing it with us today.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't shared it in a long time. The summit which you heard me talk on was sort of the first time I've really started doing it again. Sort of, from 10 years ago or something, where it was just a little bit too early. It was a little bit too early for others, but it was also too early for me. I found that my ego got a little bit carried away. I started to be seen as a guru, and that's not what I wanted to be seen as. So I shut it down for those reasons, because I didn't trust myself any longer, and I definitely didn't want to be a guru. And so, now I'm a little bit more mature, and I understand it a little bit more, and I've been getting lots more information, and so I believe I can hold it now, which allows me to hold it for others who can then. And look, the Earth is a much more aware place than it was 10 years ago, much more enlightened and ready to receive information like this.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah, I want everyone to be working with this information, because it's just going to help them have a way more fulfilling life, and whatever it is for them.
Marcus, tell us how we can connect with you.
Yeah. At the moment, if they go to dimensionaltherapy.com, you can see bits and pieces, but that will change very shortly to dimensional bioenergetics, and I'll have all the information up there really, really soon. You'll be able to contact me through there. Also, there's a copy of the pyramid meditation on the site that you can download for free, the one that you mentioned before, which is great. And also, I will be starting to run some of these events around all of this wisdom and knowledge, and there'll be details of when that will be and where it'll be. I'll be doing it in North America, doing it in Australia, and we have a retreat at the end of the year in Hawaii, where I'm going to take people on a 5-day retreat to really embed the teachings and knowledge and wisdom. Well, firstly, to awaken people to it, and then get them to really align deeply to it, and that'll allow them to sort of really activate their true resonant field to be able to do great things on the planet.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for being my guest, Marcus.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you for listening to this episode of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, on Anchor.fm, and also on Facebook. If you like this episode, make sure you subscribe and check out some of our other podcasts. You'll find me at thoughtchange.com. Pick up your copy of Learning to Listen, and we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.